Alright, welcome on in. Sorry I started up without my mic connected. Welcome in. It is Socratic Sunday. I have a couple of things I'd like to talk about, but I will tell you that I am also, hey Yvonne, I am also packing for a very early flight in the morning, so it probably won't go more than a couple hours tonight. I'm headed to South Dakota with my parents for like 5 days. Which means I will not be streaming this coming week, though I should have a video when I get back to upload to my Clips channel, but I want to get that put together before I talk more about it. Alright. But yeah, at the moment, mostly just working on making sure I got everything packed. Which shouldn't be a problem. I should have done shortly. I just have, the things that you always have to leave till last. Shit like chargers where like you're using it until the last minute. But like my clothes are packed, I'm good on that. Is it far to Oklahoma? Or so it's no, South Dakota is, hold on. This will be vastly easier if I just okay. Okay. Give me 1 second to switch my desktop capture, and then okay. So I'm like vaguely here. I'm going here. So about halfway across the country, but it's like a 1 hour flight from here to here-ish, and then another 1 hour flight from here to about here. So, not bad. Now, longest flight I ever did was 12 hours, and we sat on the tarmac for like 2 hours beforehand because it was February and the plane was iced. That said, the end of that 12-hour flight was Hawaii, so that was pretty okay. Want to enable microphone noise suppression. Am I being loud? Is my laptop making noise in the background? Oh, I can see it a little bit. Yeah, okay. Let me see if, just for the sake of simplicity, I can just move my laptop back a little bit, see if that doesn't pick up quite as much. That didn't change it visually on the waveform. Yeah, I'm not sure how to make that pick up a little less. Advanced audio properties. It is. Huh. Enable noise suppression, press three dots on the microphone, then filters, then plus on an open window? Oh, I see. Okay. Uh, I'm assuming that worked because I'm seeing nothing at all on the microphone uh, when I'm not talking. Far better? Okay, excellent. Thank you for telling me how to do that because I would have struggled to figure it out. Plus 300% good sound. Okay, noted. I will keep that in. Honestly, I'll just keep that filter on in the future. And I'll make sure it's equipped on all of my scenes, which fortunately isn't a ton of them. Yeah, that's impressive. I'm looking at the waveform and it's just not picking up at all. Solid work. Automatic noise suppression. All right. Now let's see. I was looking at something in the news that I was going to talk about. I don't remember what it was. Oh, drought dams and diplomacy. Afghanistan's water crisis goes regional. Yeah, this is one of those, like, this is going to hit a lot of places before it hits where I live, but the water wars have already sort of started. Uh, and basically it's about Afghanistan building their Qushtepa mega canal project that could divert up to 21% of the Amu Darya's total flow, further depleting the Aral Sea, which for East Asian neighbors is a serious problem. Iran is going back and forth with them over this. It's a whole, yeah. Can hear myself again by pressing three dots on advanced audio properties and then select mic and turn on monitor. Okay. Okay. Got it. Got applied to college officially. Accepted to college? Awesome. That's great. Congratulations. 16th place out of 45 free places. That's great. Yeah, it's funny because, at least for my college experience, I never knew, like, that sort of pressure as far as, like, a number of free spaces. But when I went to community college first, where basically, as long as you've got money and a pulse, like, you can get in. So I applied, I did that, I graduated, magna cum laude, which is like one step below summa cum laude and one step better than cum laude. Basically, it's good. It turns out I was a better student at 23 than I was at 18. But after 2 years there, I had the grades necessary to just get into a local college that they had a program through. So instead of having to apply to that college because I had the grades at the community college, I was able to just get into the larger college for my bachelor's degree. So it was very nice not having to have that pressure of like, oh, they've got X amount of spaces and I'm, this spot on the list. Now, granted, I also went back to college like 2 years after I got injured, so navigating around campus was a whole other thing, but I definitely appreciated not having quite that level of academic pressure applied. Oh, that was years ago, but thank you. I was 23 when I got back into college, and I graduated from with my bachelor's degree when I was 27. Waiting right now until they open the dorm. Okay, when does the dorm open up? Or is that like in process? Who knows? It'll appear on their site when they're ready. Oh, okay. So it's soon. That was my father used to always drive me crazy. College website is ugly. Yeah, well, that happens on occasion. Like 2001 style. Yeah, I've definitely dealt with some organizations that I go like, was this made in Windows 95? Because it feels like it. Like all the hard edges and the weird sort of lined background. I'm like, why though? Like as someone who's used Squarespace, it's really not hard to make like a relatively appealing looking website. Now, obviously, if you don't want to pay Squarespace or whatever, like fair enough. But as someone with very little artistic talent, I was able to make like a couple of reasonably good looking websites. Sent in the Discord website. Oh, you put images in the Discord? I see. Oh, it's a direct message. I see. Sorry, I was looking for it in the Discord. I see. Yeah, that is very Windows 95 coded. That's my college had like pretty ugly. Like it wasn't terrible. Let me see if I can find mine. Like the front page is pretty good, but then when you dig deeper, it's all pretty utilitarian. Yeah, okay, no comparison anymore. It used to be a little uglier than it currently is, but it actually appears to have been upgraded. Now, I've definitely been on company websites like that, and I'm like, who do you do business with that's just totally cool with this? I guess usually the answer I've come to is just old people who were around when the entire internet looked like that, so they don't really care. The website looks cooler, yeah, for sure. Definitely been upgraded since I was there. Because especially when you got a little deeper into it, it was pretty blocky. But yeah, they've smoothed out the edges for sure. I was just glancing at the Associated Press news to see if anything jumped out at me to talk about, but so far what's jumping out at me is there's a weird amount of sports news that I just don't care about, which is, to be fair, almost all sports news, but fatal explosion at U.S. Steel's plant? Did someone drop water into molten steel? I'm sorry. Raising questions about the plant's future after Nippon Steel's investment. So if you don't know, Nippon is the Japanese word for Japan. Uh, I don't know what Nippon Steel is because Japan famously has like no fucking iron in their soil. Back when they were making katanas for samurai, they would have to get what was called iron sand, that was literally just sand with some iron in it, melt the iron out, and then fold over the sword like 1,000 times because otherwise you couldn't get a sword. So the idea of Nippon Steel is slightly insane to me. Can you join Discord? Yeah, give me 1 second to throw an earbud in so that it's not coming through twice.
Oh,
Okay. I have the ear in, but I probably need to adjust a setting in Discord so I can actually hear you. Yep. There we go. Okay. Should be coming through correctly now.
do you hear me alright right now?
Sorry, one more time?
Do you hear me alright now?
Yeah.
Hmm. So, what happened on this Nippon Steel?
Oh, so there was a U.S. plant that, like a steel plant, where something exploded, killed, I believe, 2 people in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania last week.
Hmm.
And like that was one thing, but the question that they were looking at was Nippon Steel, which is a Japanese steelmaker, and I'm finding just the idea of a Japanese steelmaker to be very interesting because Japan in its soil has basically no iron. So making metallurgy was always kind of a problem for Japan. And so when people talk about like the legendary skill of Japanese blacksmiths folding a katana over like 1,000 times in order to make the sword, that's generally true, but it's not because they were such incredible masters of their craft, which they were, but the reason that they had to do it at all was because Japanese steel was generally kind of terrible and they just didn't have enough iron to make it good, which broadly wasn't a huge problem for them because their neighbors also had a similar problem. So when it went steel to steel, it wasn't a huge difference. But when you compare like Japanese steel in the, 1400s to European steel of the same time period, European steel is generally significantly better because they had so much more iron ore available to them. So the idea of a Japanese steelmaker in and of itself is interesting to me. Ooh. Okay, so apparently the explosion was worse than I thought. Killed 2 workers and hospitalized 10 with a blast so powerful it took hours to find 2 missing workers beneath charred wreckage and rubble. Jesus. The cause is under investigation. So, traditionally, when a steel plant explodes, it's one of 2 things. One, somebody closed a pressure container that was allowing heat to escape, and then the heat built up and turned it into a bomb. Or someone threw some water into the liquid steel, which also explodes. One of the more wild things I've ever seen on the internet was a guy who took like a 5-gallon jug of water and threw it into an active volcano, and it exploded in a way that I would not have expected. Like, it was very impressive, comparatively.
Did he survive? The guy who...
Oh, the guy, yeah, in the volcano, like, he was a ways off, but yeah. It was one of those things where, like, it was closer than I would have guessed, but not close to getting to him.
Mm. Mm. So, well, what are you doing lately?
Huh, interesting. I'm looking for...
What?
It seems to have invigorated the activity.
Jeremy, maybe I'm wrong, but I think your microphone isn't working. I heard the last time you speak was I'm looking for, and then went silent. I saw the explosion on the stream, but I couldn't hear you and anyone else. Yeah.
Okay, are we back? We're back. Okay.
Oh,
So,
welcome back.
yes, I was in fact talking over that entire video. Basically, short version. That was a lot more violent than I expected for like 5 gallons of water. And you get basically the same effect when you throw a water bottle into a steel plant. Because you get that small amount of water that then superheats into steam and starts blowing steel all over the place. That said, given the size of the explosion they're talking about, it was probably more than that. Let me maybe see if I can actually find... I saw a video, I think on Reddit many years ago, but I don't remember the specifics on that one.
There's a guy in the Discord chat uh, says hi and that it's Nusrat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going, this rut? Okay. Thank you for monitoring that, because I would not have seen that. I'm mostly looking at the
No problem.
Twitch chat. Water bottle in a... this might be it? God, this is a old fucking video. Though I think this is the one I saw. Come on. There it is. Okay. I'm gonna just screen share again. So, somebody decided in this steel plant to throw a water bottle in. It went predictably.
Someone did the bottle flip challenge.
So yeah, even like a relatively small water bottle, pretty violent reaction. So I don't know what exactly happened at US Steel, but those were the two things that I thought of immediately when I heard explosion at a steel plant, because even a small amount of water can have pretty dire consequences.
Yeah.
Let's see.
This sucks.
That was, I think... That was everything I was interested in on the steel one anyway. Yeah, God, they really want me to care about sports news, and I don't. Yeah,
I
literally
hate
the
sports.
next, like, 8 articles were all for sports, and I just... Don't get me wrong, I pay attention to the Olympics when those roll around, but other than that, I'm really not keeping track of any teams. Alright. Whole lot of stuff between the EU and Trump being fucking at odds over Ukraine.
Yay!
MIP brand setter, Serbia belongs to the EU, but not with Vucic regime. Okay, yeah, I'm actually down with that. Get Vucic out of office, get Orban out of office while you're at it. EU observers report normalcy in elections in Bolivia. That's such a great headline. Like, everything went fine. Awesome. Yeah, of the probably 20 articles here, I think like 16 are related to the current talks about, or the peace talks in Ukraine. Now, granted, I did click on EU news, so that one's a little bit on me. Okay, how about offbeat news? That's usually fun.
What's that?
Let's see.
What's an offbeat news?
Offbeat basically just means a little weird, a little out there.
Local news.
Yeah. So thieves grab $2 million in jewelry in Seattle heist that took less than 2 minutes. That's impressive. 97-year-old runner breaks European park run record with 250th event. That's also impressive. Colorado confirms Shope papillomavirus behind Fort Collins horned rabbits. What?
Yeah,
I think I
heard
understood most of what that was saying, but huh?
I saw a TikTok that somewhere, I don't know where, the rabbits got this strange disease that only affects rabbits. Basically, they have like, it's like cancer, something like that, and just horns
So
or like grows from the body like black, like literally black, the body, and grows and grows.
So what they're saying is correct? It's a papillomavirus, which is basically the virus that is behind most warts in human beings. Like HPV or human papillomavirus, which there's like 400-ish varieties of, is considered to be a sexually transmitted disease that, most often leaves warts of some variety. But yeah, it's apparently specific to the rabbits, like whatever their kind of papillomavirus is.
Yeah.
Oh, you were so close. Ban for Lamborghini driver caught doing 140 miles per hour in the UK. Like, come on, you're not that far from Germany if you really want to drive places without a speed limit. Book returned to San Antonio Public Library 82 years late. So I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say whoever checked it out is dead. June of 2025, the San Antonio Public Library received a book that had been checked out almost 82 years earlier, originally borrowed in 1943 by a family member and sent back from Oregon, along with a note explaining its late return. Letter indicated that the book probably belonged to the sender's grandmother, who took it along when the family moved and later worked at the American diplomatic mission in Mexico City. Okay. Fair enough. Australian lawyer apologizes for AI-generated errors in murder case. You know, dude, if you're working on a murder case, maybe don't use fucking ChatGPT to do literally anything. Just don't. Oh my god. The judge noted that the court had released guidelines last year on proper AI usage, stating it is unacceptable unless verified. Really hoping that lawyer isn't a lawyer anymore, because, Jesus. Do better. Yeah, I feel like I was reading some other news article I was going to talk about earlier today, but I genuinely don't remember. Oh, good. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent fires shots at vehicle with people inside in San Bernardino operation. Not great. Really not a fan of watching my country slide into fascism. And Immigration and Customs Enforcement is the Gestapo this time around.
What exactly do Trump for? Because what he's doing that everybody calls it fascism. I kind of didn't
Oh, as far as
get
what Trump is
that.
doing that qualifies as fascism?
Yeah, I didn't search like why.
Sure. So
Why?
easiest version is my general go-to reference is a document titled Fascism, by Umberto Eco, who was a 20th century academic and highly intelligent Italian professor, but he grew up under Mussolini in fascist Italy. Okay. Give me 1 second to find this.
Okay, but why Trump is doing what he's doing right now? So everybody calls it fascism.
So sorry, what is the question? What is he doing that is fascistic, or is the question why is...
Yeah,
Okay. So
I
the
did.
3 pillars of fascism, and I'll reference a different document here. Under the Public Leadership Institute, 3 pillars of fascism. Demonization of domestic enemies. One should hope that that one's fairly self-explanatory. Trump has been going off about for a very long time, they at least used the cover that they wanted to go after illegal immigrants, but they pretty much dropped that charade back on the 2024 campaign trail and just started saying immigrants. Which is enormously ironic, given that his current wife is an immigrant. But, also, he has been demonizing members of the LGBTQ community, as well as basically anybody who opposes him politically. He is referred to the Democratic Party as the enemies within. So that pretty well covers item 1 on the checklist. Demonization of domestic enemies. Preposterous lies. Again, one hopes, fairly self-explanatory. The one that pops to mind after the 2024 campaign is Trump stating that they were going to use taxpayer dollars in U.S. prisons to perform transgender surgeries on illegal immigrants. Which is so many levels of not happening in the world, like beyond not even close to fucking reality. Added to the fact that I believe in his first 4 years in office back from 2017 to January of 2021, he was recorded as having lied on the record 36,000 times, like a ridiculously high number. Effectively, if his mouth was moving, he was fucking lying. And then contempt, pillar number 3, contempt for democratic institutions. This, again, hopefully fairly self-explanatory, though I don't know to what degree that news is coming over to Russia.
Election.
But really not a fan of free and fair elections. In his first go-around in office, the election was the second, like, the election he was trying to win while he was still the president was in 2020. So mail-in voting was going to be used because it was not reasonable to get people to the polls with COVID in full swing. And he appointed a man named DeJoy to the U.S. to lead the U.S. Postal Service, who then went around destroying multi-million-dollar mail sorting machines to slow down the mail process, to make it less likely that the mail-in votes would make it in time to be counted, so that Trump had a better chance of winning, basically.
Wow.
So, at this point, we have all 3 pillars of fascism neatly demonstrated by Trump and the modern Republican Party. Because that's the other thing, right? Like, Trump couldn't get away with this if it was just him. You have the entire Republican Party in Congress ceding power to him. For instance, like the whole thing where I'm sure you've heard about the like stupid tariffs that he's slapping on every country, which legally speaking, he's not allowed to do, because explicitly outlined in the U.S. Constitution is that Congress has the power of the purse. That is to say, they get to choose how taxpayer money is spent. Trump is the president, which is the head of the executive branch, meaning that he can direct policy and how policy is enforced, as well as directing law enforcement agencies, but he explicitly does not have any power over implementing or removing tariffs. But because the Congress, in both the Senate and the House, are majority Republican, and they're not stopping him, they're refusing to stop him, he just gets to do it. Because basically, something being against the rules only matters if there's someone to enforce the rules. The last stopgap has been the Supreme Court, which in his first term, he packed in such a way that one of the people he appointed to the court shouldn't be there. So either the first person he appointed to the court, Brett Kavanaugh, shouldn't be there because that should have been Obama's appointment, or because Ruth Bader Ginsburg died so close to the end of Trump's term, that should have been the next president's appointment, but despite Obama still being in office for another like 9 months when the last Supreme Court justice stepped out, and Mitch McConnell, who is just genuinely one of the worst people on the planet, stated explicitly that he would not approve any nomination that Obama made to the Supreme Court. And he said it was for the next president to decide, which was not his call, not a thing. But, again, because nobody forced them to obey the law, they did it. So, oh, for fuck's sake. Alright. OBS will be back in a second. Sorry, basically, because nobody stepped up and forced the issue, Trump was then allowed to appoint Brett Kavanaugh. Because Ruth Bader Ginsburg died while Trump was still in office, despite the fact that Trump only had, like, I don't know, 20... I think 18 days or some shit left in his term. Republican Congress, again, rushed to make sure that Trump could appoint one more member of the Supreme Court, which is a court of 9 individuals that is appointed for life. So if you can get a young person on the court, you can affect policy for decades. And he got 2 young justices on the court, at least one of which, by their own rules, shouldn't have been there. But the only party that even bothers to pretend that they're trying to play fair in the US is the Democrats, and that's why they keep fucking losing. So, with the Supreme Court being one of the last major checks to the president's power, but having packed it with the kind of people who are explicitly not going to check his power, a lot of things that shouldn't have gotten through have been getting through. Now, one of the few positives is the second person he appointed, Amy Coney Barrett. Don't like her as a person, don't believe in her philosophies, but she does at least seem to believe in the U.S. Constitution. So she has been the deciding vote in a number of cases that have come down against Trump. So that, at the very least, has been positive. But let me also, if you're interested in reading Fascism, it's like a 10-page document. I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing on stream. But I'm going to put it in the chat. Fair warning, it's on theanarchistlibrary.org. I don't know how... I know Russia's a little twitchy about some of this.
Kinda. You have like I don't know how it's called, like a plan that a law, I don't know, that already approved, but it's gonna be active since 1st of September. That like bans like 5,000 extreme materials, and it's like a huge list.
Oh, for like government censorship?
Yeah. There's like a fine, maybe even
I love that.
even someone can be arrested for this. So yeah. Kind of.
Yeah, as many problems as I have with what's going on in my country, I think we actually still have a couple more guardrails than y'all do.
What?
I was saying, as many problems as I have with the rising fascism in my country, I think we have a couple more guardrails left than you do, but it is
What's a
definitely,
guardrails?
they are doing their best to implement a system that's very similar as far as speaking out against the people in power can get you detained, arrested, etc.
What's a guardrails?
Sorry. Oh, guardrails? So, like when you're driving down the road, the things on the side of the road that are there to prevent you from going off are guardrails. So when I say that we have a few more guardrails, I'm saying we have a few more lines of defense left.
Oh.
Sorry, idiomatic language again.
Yeah. Fine.
But yeah, Umberto Eco's Fascism effectively posits that fascism isn't always the same thing, but that it shares family traits. Basically, like it always looks similar. It's just not necessarily the same every single time. Because fascist Italy and fascist Germany were different. And that's where, like, as many terrible things as Trump is doing and sending people to camps, I think people comparing him to Hitler is incorrect, because awful and evil as it was, Hitler had an ideology, whereas Trump is much more like Mussolini in that the ideology is irrelevant. It's all about the ego. For Mussolini, it was all about him, not the party or Italy. It was about self-aggrandizement. So, putting the ego first was eventually what got Mussolini killed when Italy was taken, and he tried to sneak out wearing a German soldier's uniform and was quickly caught because the man had been plastering his face over posters and buildings for fucking decades, so everybody knew what he looked like. Didn't work out for him. There's a fairly easy to find picture of him hanging upside down naked, beaten to death. I'm gonna not put that up on Twitch because it's probably against TOS. If it's not, I have questions about TOS. Oh, I'm hoping that the internet doesn't drop again. I switched to a wired connection because I realized that was part of the problem. Was OBS being on Wi-Fi apparently can occasionally cause problems, and so unfortunately I didn't have an Ethernet port in my laptop, so I had to buy an adapter for that. But I got the adapter, and I had forgotten to plug it in, so I just now plugged it in. So we should be good. I shouldn't drop again. Oof. 250 people flee as Turkish rescuers battle wildfire in Gallipoli? Yikes. I know they've had a few wildfires, but I mean, terrible as it is that 250 people are fleeing their homes, at least that means wherever the wildfire is not in a super densely populated area, if only 250 people are running. Doesn't make you feel any better if you're one of those 250, but... let's see...
Could I ask a little bit personal question?
Yeah, sure.
What's your father's name? If you don't
Uh,
mind.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Just first name, not the
Yeah,
surname.
it won't make a huge amount of difference because his first name is Robert. It's not exactly
Yeah.
uncommon.
Do you know what отчество means in
Just
Russian?
uh it sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
Basically, it's like you in America have a second name, but you have a father's name. Basically, you take your father's name and add uh, which.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Sorry, patronymics. Yes. So Ovich for father and Ovna for mother, or daughter,
no,
son of, daughter of, rather. So Ovich for son of, Ovna for daughter of.
yeah. So you're like you're Jeremy, so it's like Jeremy Roberto.
Yeah,
Rob,
Robertovich.
maybe it's pronounced differently,
It would be
but yeah,
Jeremy Robertovich.
yeah. So yeah, if like if you- let let's imagine you like teach someone like you're a teacher or someone like higher in the career ladder. People with the younger people and the ones who like less uh, have less authority, they would approach you like with the Jeremy Robertovich. It's uh, like you have in America like Mr. Mrs. Uh, Miss, like Miss Brown. It's like Miss plus the surname. We
Yeah,
have like name plus
plus
father.
patronymic. Yeah.
Too smart for me. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I studied a bit of that. But both of my Russian professors that were actually Russian were just like, no, I don't care. Just use the first name. It's easier.
Yeah, it's just usually. Well, it depends on the person.
Well, I think the fact that we were all college students made them care a lot less. Like, I'm
Yeah,
sure if we'd been younger, it would have been a thing, but
mm, I I would be approached like if I was uh, older and important. Like I would be Ivan Evgenievich. My father says Evgeny.
Yevgeny? Okay.
Yeah, actually, names are like really, really strange, involve English and Russian. Like Richard is big. Who else does?
Yeah,
Who
there's a very
really?
similar sort of background in Norse, which is why a lot of names end in son. Um, so Johnson, Jackson, all kinds of last names that end in son, Watson, whatever. Um, but that is basically the same system coming out of Norway, but then adapted into the more standard. Oh, for Christ's sake. OBS Studio disconnected. What are we doing? You're wired. How are you disconnecting? Okay.
Maybe
Whatever.
you didn't change from like you connected, but you didn't change like from Wi-Fi to
No, it changed
cable.
automatically.
Oh,
I might need to turn off and reboot OBS to make it work better, but I'm not worried about it right now.
mm,
But yeah, basically, you get a lot of son last names, because then the patronymic was adapted into the sort of surname system that we have in the English-speaking world. So Jackson, Johnson, Gurnson, whatever. The less common one that you get is Dottir, Dottir, which is the same system from Norway, but basically the last names, the surnames got locked in place patriarchally along patrilineal lines, fathers, rather than matrilineal lines or mothers. So the last names almost always wind up being son.
Mm-hmm.
And there was enough back and forth with Germany and Danes as that some of those names peeked through as well, similarly.
Mm-hmm. What?
But effectively,
German
what that
names,
system means is if I go to top 100 most common last names in the United States, second one Johnson, Wilson, Anderson, Jackson, Thompson, Robinson, Nelson, Peterson, Richardson, Watson. Yeah, so a fair amount of sons, just due to the amount of German and Norwegian immigrants that the U.S. has had over the years. And actually, it was not even about immigrants to the U.S. It was more about Danish or the people that were left after Viking raids, basically Danes, having intermarried into Europe by the time of the Black Plague. And so most serfs at the time had no surnames. They just had first names. Like, family names weren't really a thing in the peasant class. But after the Black Plague wiped out a significant percentage of Europe's, like, population, laborers gained a great deal of power compared to their previous positions as serfs. When there were plenty of people, a skilled laborer could then move place to place if they were, a smith or a fisherman or a, tanner or a cooper. So because they didn't have family names at the time, the idea was if they were going to move place to place, it was never a need to have a family name because everybody always stayed in one place. You didn't have, like, freedom of movement in the feudal English system. But because the laborers had gained that power, they needed a last name so they were known, basically, when they traveled. And so what they did was they did it purely by profession, which is why there are so many smiths, because there were a lot of blacksmiths. So smith, tanner, cooper, fisher, hunter, like, all of these were purely out of the Black Plague causing a need for surnames among the serf class. But it's also what locked in a lot of those Johnson, Thompson, whatever son names, because there were already Danes in England by the time the Black Plague came through. Which is how we got so many in the US. So we never did patronymics in, like, UK history to American history, But because of patronymics in Norway, we still have a significant chunk of our society that is affected by that practice.
Cool.
Sorry, what's that?
Cool.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Let me see if I can turn you up a little.
You find them?
Okay, should be okay.
Find them.
Yeah, I think so.
I said just cool. I don't know how to tell this.
Fair enough.
I'm not so educated in this stuff.
I mean, honestly, I'm just a nerd with access to the internet, so if I ever am curious about a thing, I can go get the answer, which is great.
With the ADHD.
Yeah, with ADHD, that is also relevant.
Yeah.
But basically, at this point, one of the great things in the internet age is that one's education level is not so neatly defined as it used to be, high school or college or whatever education. It's you can go and get education. The real question is, if you're going to like an accredited college, they have verified their sources, generally speaking, whereas it becomes incumbent upon you, if you want to do your own research, to find reliable sources. It's one of the things I love Wikipedia for, is they source all their articles and you can click links to the sources just to make sure that it's all correct.
Yeah. The modern. Thanks to modern technology. Uh, I'm so excited about tomorrow.
Sorry, so excited about what?
My acoustic guitar should arrive.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. Waiting for this day.
I remember back in high school, the iPad from Apple had just come out. I had a friend who was very into tech. And I remember watching him, like, it had a tracking number on the package. And every day I would get an update, like, oh, it's in China. Like, okay. It's in South Korea. Great, man. It's on the ocean coming from China. And one day I walked in and he goes, it's in California. I'm like, great, man. That's awesome. And 2 days later, I came back in and he was like, it's back in China. I'm like, how? How did that happen? And it got there eventually, but it was very funny watching him, like, lose his mind watching the tracking number.
Sounds. Why? What? Just why?
Yeah, he was like, it made it across the ocean and then went back. Like, what are we doing?
Strange.
All right. Sorry, I am very tired. I've been awake since like midnight or about like 11:30 last night, and then I'm gonna have to be up by like 3:30, 3:45 tomorrow morning. And I'm not looking to cut the stream off just yet. I'm trying to go for like at least 2 hours, but I'm definitely feeling how long I've been awake. Especially because, God, I went to work today. It is so fucking hot out where I live. It was, I think, 92 degrees and incredibly sunny. And humid.
I hate humidity.
Yeah,
It's
you and me
the
both.
most awful.
Well, I live near Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. is where it is because when the federal government asked Maryland and Virginia for some land to put the nation's capital on, both states picked the swamp that they did not care about. So D.C. got built in a swamp. And while we've built up around the swamp a lot, it's still a swamp, so it stays very humid around here. Like, and honestly, I always feel bad complaining, because as terrible as it is, I know that, like, places south of me, you know, Georgia, Alabama, have vastly worse, like, heat and humidity, but, it gets really nasty around where I am.
Wanna hear like a little bit full, not so full, like detailed about my mother. It's not like her personal
Yeah,
thing.
sure would.
Uh, she basically was like in a near town, like how to say, and not so far from Chernobyl when the well,
Really? Back in 1986?
yeah. She lived in the Ukraine back in like until 1991 and so.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so she was like in Vinnytsia, it's like not so far, uh,
Yeah, I
not
know
so
about
close
where that
down.
is.
So yeah, she was celebrated, like the usual stuff.
Yeah, wow, that is, I do not envy anyone who was in that position back in 86.
Yeah, terrible thing.
Yeah, it's incredible mismanagement at every level.
Yeah,
It's like, we need to protect the image of the party, so we will not do what the scientists say, and we will lie to every other nation on the planet about how bad it is.
yeah.
That was, one of the biggest tragedies in the, like, trying to get some of the graphite off one of the roofs is they got a police robot from Germany that could do it.
Yeah, that's shut down because
That
of
shut
the
down because they had lied about how much actual radiation there was up there.
war.
And the Germans were like, they were given the propaganda number at the time, and the Germans were like, oh yeah, it can handle that much. Not knowing that it was actually like 10 times that.
Typical uses in car.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, it went basically from corruption at the bottom with plant managers trying to get promotions and bonuses for on-time work that hadn't been done, all the way to failures of the state for failing to evacuate and get people, like, safe so as not to cause a panic. But hey, Stalker 2 is a pretty good video game, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. The national tragedy. A lot of people died and suffered from the radiation poisoning. We got a cool game, Stalker 2. Yeah,
Uh-huh, yep. And to be fair, it's not just Stalker 2. There's a ton of alt history games set in Chernobyl because it was the time when the world was not sure if it was gonna fucking end because it was not clear what was actually going on. No, I still remember one of the wildest things when the plant went up in Chernobyl. The Soviet state was still making it out as though like everything was fine, but in Germany, children were not being allowed to play outside, like 1,000 kilometers out, because they had radiation detectors and could tell that it was not safe even that far away. And I think they were, I think it was like 2 or 3 days before the evacuation like got underway.
Well, yeah, like 2 days.
Yeah, from Pripyat, it took a long, and it was kind of wild too. Like, you can look at it as a big organized effort, which it kind of was, and at another level, it was guys pulling up in buses going, "Take off all your clothes and get on the bus," which had to be wild to hear in first person. Like, you want me to do what? Especially because they'd been being told for a couple of days, like, no, it's all fine.
Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah, it's not enormously historically accurate. Like, there are a few liberties taken, but, oh yeah, Nusrat, sorry, there was no stream this Friday. I got a message from work at like 3 o'clock that I needed to be in at like 7 o'clock. Which I did not know until 3 o'clock, so I had to bail on that one. Oh, Chernobyl, the show, yeah, I was just saying, the show is not the most historically accurate thing in the world. For one, there's a single character in there that's meant to represent like 20 scientists, but because it was a 5-episode miniseries, they didn't want to confuse people, so they kept it to one character. But the 2 other major characters were there and did basically everything that was shown in the show. It's very well done. It's a 5-episode miniseries. But it illustrates basically all of the things that went wrong and why it kept getting worse despite a bunch of scientists knowing exactly what they were talking about and telling people who were in power what they needed to do, and the people in power going, no, I don't think so. It's like, oh, Christ. Which, I mean, I've been hearing that same conversation about global warming my entire life. Scientists go, hey, this would be an easy thing to do, and politicians are like, I don't know. It's not popular. I'm like, yeah, because people are fucking dumb. People don't know. The experts do. That's what the experts are for.
Okay.
Oh, Nusrat, it was the farm, called me in, for an orientation thing. Like, there was basically a mistake on their end, where they sent me out a thing that said I didn't have to be at, orientation. And then I got a text going, hey, so why aren't you signed up to be at the orientation? I'm like, cause I got this, which said I didn't need to be. And they were like, nope, that's wrong. I was like, whatever, if you want to pay me for an hour and a half to come sit in for an orientation that I basically know all of, that's fine. No objection, but it was kind of last minute. Yeah, you're actually interested in learning about global warming. There are a lot of very good sources, and this is an older one, but Al Gore, a presidential candidate in the 2000 election in the United States, made a documentary called An Inconvenient Truth, which covers the topic very well. Yeah, movie came out in 2006. I'll put the Wikipedia article in. Should be easy enough to find. But, yeah, An Inconvenient Truth is a great primer on climate change and global warming. And there are a lot of more modern sources out there with more modern data. But one of the statistics I remember from when I was younger was basically that the public has always had a very skewed perception of the scientific community's consensus on global warming, because you would get talk shows that would go ahead and bring on two people. One who understood what global warming was and the data, and one who didn't believe that global warming was real or that it was being overblown. So to the public, that looked like 50-50, like some believe it, some don't. When in reality, the scientific consensus among 97% of scientists was that global warming was real and happening, and only 3% disbelieved it. So it was one of those things where, like, it wound up being presented to the public in a very inaccurate way, not even necessarily intentionally, but it just happened. Mostly because the news agencies didn't understand it either. But what it wound up being was the scientific consensus was, yes, it's happening since... I mean, oil companies had the data as early as the late 60s. The scientific community at large really started to catch on in the early 80s. And then... Oh, you're interested in it biologically, like what could develop fungus and things? Yes, so... Generally speaking, the warmer the Earth gets and the more humid, the larger flora and fauna grow, so larger plants and animals, and the more microbacterias and fungi tend to spread and grow and develop, because heat is a useful source of energy for a number of things. And you also tend to get, as you get more heat and humidity, more insects and reptiles. Because humans are endothermic, so we produce our own heat, but for, snakes, crocodiles, any kind of lizard, a warmer Earth is a much more inhabitable Earth, because they're getting all of their heat externally. They're ectothermic is the scientific term for it.
I'm probably gonna go.
Sure. Have a good evening. I will be back either on Friday for stream or Sunday 1 week from today.
Have a nice trip to the South Dakota. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I will not be streaming out of there because I am not bringing any of my equipment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Have a safe flight.
Thank you. Sleep well, man.
Yeah.
Oh, really glad I made coffee. Doesn't more heat make more variation of viruses? Generally, yes. Just because viruses tend to thrive on life, and as we were saying, microbacterias and fungi tend to grow more rapidly, and you have larger organisms and more organisms, which gives viruses more chance to spread. So not only do they spread, they evolve more rapidly. Which means, yay, the oil companies have caused us to die of horrible viruses. Probably. But it's one of the things when people were talking about, like, oh, COVID was a once in 100-year kind of plague. It's like, well, theoretically, yeah, but with the Earth heating up, it's probably going to become more common. Now, the irony of things like COVID is like, yeah, okay, the Spanish flu was about 100 years before that. But unfortunately, all the people who lived through the Spanish flu and knew what to do in the event of a plague had pretty much died off by the time COVID started. So all of that knowledge was lost, and we didn't have people going, hey, no, this is really bad. I know how bad it is because I lived through it, because they had all just died off. Meaning that all the people that were BSing about, oh, it's just a flu, it's just a cold, it's whatever, didn't have old people pushing back going, no, you're wrong, this is bad. Just scientists, which, as established, leaders are not great at listening to or learning from because they speak inconvenient truths. The trouble with truth is it doesn't actually care if you believe in it. Yeah, I am often frustrated when I look around, and the thing that kills me too is, right, like, there were huge recycling initiatives that started getting pushed in you should watch the documentary. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. There were huge initiatives getting pushed in the 70s about recycling, and people talking about, oh, save the earth, do this, do that. And it was always bullshit, meant by corporations to put the onus back on the consumer, when in reality, there are like 20 companies around the world today that produce 80% of the world's carbon. And it's like, you can't make a dent as a human being. As one of 8 billion people, you can't make a dent compared to 20 companies producing 80% of the carbon for the entire planet. And it's just like, that's why it needs to be handled at a legal or governmental level with regulation rather than everybody, pitches in and recycles their stuff. A, because plastic recycling only works for like 7% of plastic, and B, because you can't make a dent unless you adjust the carbon offsets. And the other thing that kills me is you've got all these politicians railing against solar and wind energy, which are in like vastly cleaner and less carbon producing than coal, oil, etc. But they have conservative bases that don't like anything new. Or I guess I should put new in quotes because solar panels have been around a long fucking time now. Uh, but they rail against it. They're like, no, we need coal. And I'm like, what? Why? Last I checked, it is not the 1800s, not even the 1900s when we used a fair amount of coal. Why can we not use solar panels, wind energy? Like, and the general answer is, oh, it's ugly. I don't like seeing the windmills. Like, get the fuck over yourself, maybe. Consider that. Just threw that tsunami of info at you. Yeah, sorry, welcome to my stream. That is kind of the trouble with Socratic Sunday. I only slow down enough to find a source for what I'm saying. Otherwise, I'm pretty much just yapping. Rewind it later. Yeah. It'll go up as normal tomorrow on the VODs channel, so should have plenty of time should you wish to. Reminded new dude making oil out of plastic. Interesting. Because that's effectively like plastic is made out of oil, so you're just reverting it to its previous state. Which is chemically interesting. I have no idea how you would do that, but that doesn't mean much. My chemistry background is pretty limited. Going viral. Interesting. Hold on. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Pyrolysis and hydrothermal processing can turn plastic back into oil, which can then be refined into fuels like gasoline and diesel. Interesting. Huh. I don't think I'm seeing the guy that you're talking about, but he's African American? Okay. Interesting. None of the clips I'm seeing look like that, but... Oh, is it maybe...
I have created plastoline, a gasoline alternative.
Is it... Hold on. This guy... Man figured out how to turn plastic waste into fuel. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, that's him. Okay, cool. Interesting. I will leave that up and look at the full video later. Possibly tomorrow before my flight, because I'm probably going to sleep as soon as I'm off stream. He's been hacked and stalked. Yeah, that tracks. His first mistake was being a black person on the internet. That often goes very badly because people are very stupid. I wish that you could say that and it surprised me, but it just doesn't. People say he's going to be assassinated. Not likely. The real question is how effective and, like, paradigm changing his method is. Because if it's super easy and takes like basically no energy, sure, that would be a threat to energy companies. If it's kind of a pain in the ass and would take a fair amount of infrastructure to actually make viable, it really doesn't matter all that much. Like it can make a small dent, but it's not gonna change the whole game, basically. And I also wonder if it works with all kinds of plastic, or again, as I was saying earlier, something like 7% of plastic is recyclable into different kinds of plastic. So I wonder if it's all plastics or if there are particular kinds of plastic that have to be used for this. Like, I'm sure he's getting death threats, but death threats and being assassinated are very different in the age of the internet. Which isn't to say that anybody should ever send death threats, but it's not the same thing. And the thing that you have to remember is that some people on the internet are 12 years old and don't have a fundamental grasp of the consequences of their actions. And like literally anyone can send a death threat as long as they are literate enough to type it. So unfortunately, a lot of young, immature people who are not sufficiently monitored on the internet wind up sending some really horrific messages, which again, not acceptable, but broadly more on the parents, at least initially. I mean, like, the fuel that's used for the machine would be the energy cost. Right, that's the question. So I don't know what the energy cost to energy output is. So if it takes enough energy to turn plastic back into oil, then it's not worth using as gasoline while we still have access to oil to make gasoline. It's the kind of process that could be invaluable in a world where we have basically tapped out our oil resources, which we will eventually do. Those are finite and not coming back. But for the moment, it's probably not necessarily a useful process. But as the world continues to go more and more solar and wind energy, it could be... Doesn't matter, he would maybe arrange it to cost little. Right, that's the question. Is like, if you can make it cost effective, and then if you can get the energy from somewhere that's not already oil based, so be that solar panels or be that wind farms or whatever else, hydraulic power, or hydroelectric rather, then you could maybe make it worthwhile as far as energy costs to convert plastic back into gasoline. But if you didn't have a better alternative than that, you would wind up using either coal or oil to turn plastic back into oil, which is probably not worthwhile. But as I said, expanding more eco-friendly infrastructure will mean that will become more cost-effective over time. Though, ironically, doing so as we shift further and further away from using gasoline in general. So it could be a huge discovery, it could be nothing at all. Credit to the guy. I'm glad he's, blown up on the internet. I'm hoping he, gets some good mail mixed in with the hate mail. But I have a number of unfortunate practical questions that come up anytime there's a new energy alternative that's like, okay, it's cool, but but unless his output's way bigger than the input, right, which is theoretically possible, but hard to do, because energy and matter cannot be created or destroyed, it basically means you're paying the cost to convert some into something else. The question is what that cost is, because if you can make the cost like very low energy, then yeah, it could be great. But it's really a question of what that cost is, and I don't know. I'll have to watch the video later, see what his process is, see what it looks like, but I'll be very interested to see how he's overcoming that inherent energy deficit that it takes to make the new energy thing. I would love for it to be, the answer to everyone's problems, but there are a great many discoveries that are like, this is incredible, this will change everything, and then like 3 months later you've never heard of it again because it doesn't change that much. That said, finding more uses for plastic is great, especially because we have landfills full of plastic. So if we can start fishing through those and converting stuff back into usable oil or gas products, hooray, like, do that. But I will be interested to see if that is feasible given his methodology. Or if his methodology can be tweaked to make it more energy efficient, which I'm sure it can. Science is generally an iterative process. Aha. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for. I always appreciate when I know that there are scientists who are working on a range of like plastic eating bacteria, which is one of those things that I'm like. He mentioned that he was self-taught. Some people are just that smart that like they get interested in a thing, and again, like I was talking about earlier, in the age of the internet, if I'm curious about a thing, I can go looking. And the only question that I have to answer is what is the veracity of my sources? How valid are my sources? How true are my sources? And if I am good at discerning what are valuable resources, being self-taught in something is easier now than it has ever been. So credit to the guy. If he was curious about something and went and did the research and learned how to do it himself, that's awesome. I do love that like the initial video has him hanging out in just like a jacket, and then he's on the news in like a suit and tie and looks very, very stiff as they're asking questions to him. I always think that's funny. Just like I understand that the suit and the tie has been a thing for men's fashion since like the Regency era 200 years ago in England. But God, we could just not make it like the height of all fashion. Maybe just skip that for people who are inventing new technologies in their backyards. Just could we maybe tone down the dress code a little bit? Maybe it's just me. I just hate suits. I really do not enjoy wearing suits, so. And you know the really frustrating thing about not liking wearing suits is I actually look pretty good in a suit. I just hate wearing them. I was annoyed at a buddy of mine's wedding. I was like, it was like one of the 5 people in the world that I would put a suit on for without complaining much. And I caught a look at myself in like the reflection of the elevator doors, and I was like, damn it, I look good. Why? I feel like I should look as bad as I feel, but I don't. I actually look fairly sharp. Yeah, you get the same thing. Yeah. The thing is, like, most of the time, that's a fairly silly complaint where it's like, it really doesn't matter, you know. If some places have stricter dress codes, you have to, you hate the attitude you have to switch to when putting on a suit, 100% right there with you. Um, but most of the time, I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, is it absurd in some professional environments to tell people to wear suits? Yeah, I think so, but whatever. Like, if that's your thing, that's your thing. Fine. But I have absolutely seen, like, there's a video out of China that I saw many years ago of a factory worker who wasn't wearing the jacket but had like a suit shirt and a tie on, and his tie slipped and got caught in the machinery and dragged his entire body into it. And I'm like, that man died because corporate wanted certain fashion choices on the floor, and it's just horrifying. Like, of all the reasons to die, being stuck wearing one of the more uncomfortable pieces of clothing in the world, of male clothing in the world, I guess, it's just terrible. I would be so mad if I died because of a tie. Yeah, it's I'm not gonna look for the video because I'm sure that's against Twitch's terms of service. The dude definitely died. But yeah, it was an old video I saw on Reddit many years ago. Of I don't think it was a plant manager. I think it was just a factory worker. But he leaned in and it was two bits of rolling equipment and it got pulled in between them and just sucked the guy's entire body in. It was terrible. Just one of those videos you see on the internet that you can never really unsee. You're like, that, okay, that's stuck in the brain forever. Be so pissed I would come back to life in a new body. Yeah, yeah. I would be very mad. Which is also why I will probably never take a job that's like wear a suit and tie. I might go as far as like wear a button down shirt, but even that I wouldn't be happy about. Anything more than like business casual, I'm good. My day-to-day wear is like a pair of khaki cargo pants and a black polo. Anything fancier than that and I don't want to deal with it. Nuh-uh, God, not this time. Yeah, fair. What do we say to the god of death? Not today. Oh, there's something in my back that is not happy with me. There we go. Imagine the afterlife. Yeah, God. And I mean, it depends on the afterlife you believe in, too, right? Like, ancient Egyptians, had their organs transported in canoptic jars with them to go into the afterlife. They had their riches buried with them to, like, get to the afterlife with all their stuff. Uh, like imagine you get that crush experience, right? Like building the pyramids and you roll into the afterlife just flat. And it's like, come on, man. How you gonna like go straight to the afterlife that way? That's just rough. And then, I mean, I'm sure you got to explain it, which is not great. I always think about that with, there was a woman in the U.S. who was walking down a road and got hit in the head with a meteor, which didn't kill her. It just hurt, like it just bonked her in the head. But it's like, if it had killed her, like how do you react to that, right? Like this woman, a random rock from space that's been traveling for probably billions of years just happens to hit right where you're standing. Literally astronomical odds. But like the first thing you would feel would be confusion, right? It's like, ow, I got hit in the head. It must have been this rock. Where could this rock have come from? And the correct answer is space. And you're like, how the fuck? There was actually, I saw a recent article about someone who was like living in their apartment and got hit in their bed by a meteorite that went through the roof. It's like, let me see if I can find that article actually. Yeah, 4.56 billion year old meteorite crashes into house in Georgia. That is ostensibly older than Earth by like 20 million years, which doesn't really make that big a difference. Like, I assume you're within a margin of error on that one. I don't know why they were like, it's 20 million years older than Earth. Be like, it's about as old as Earth. 4.5 billion years is plenty impressive. I mean, it's got to land somewhere. Yeah, well, exactly. That's the thing, right? And that's the thing. It was brought up in the Mass Effect trilogy. I think Mass Effect 2. There's a whole sequence about, like, space combat. And you can hear the instructor going on about, like, when you pull that trigger, you have to mean it. Because the slug that you fire is either going to hit your target or continue traveling through space at the velocity it came out of the barrel until it hits something. That something could be literally a billion years away, but it's gonna keep going until it hits something. Which is also true of asteroids, meteors, micrometeorites, etc. Whew. But yeah, it's stuff like that. I'm like, that it is genuinely wild, and just the statistical odds of it happening to you are so low. Wonder what the origin of the meteor was. I don't remember the specifics, but it was like they were taking it to get it tested for what the core of it was, but it was a lot of very like heavy metals in it. Part of the meteorite was pulverized upon impact. University of Georgia received 23 grams of the 50 grams of fragmented space rock recovered from the house. Meteorite is an ordinary chondrite, a stony type of meteorite that's the most common thing among all recovered space rocks. Low metal meteorite probably formed around 4.56 billion years ago in the presence of oxygen. belongs to a group of asteroids in the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter that we now think we can tie to a breakup much larger, about 470 million years ago. But in that breakup, some pieces got to Earth, crossing orbits, and given long enough their orbit around the Sun and Earth's orbit around the Sun end up being in the same place at the same moment in time. Yeah. Fucking wild. It's rubble of a new planet if you think about it. Well, yeah, I mean, basically every planet was a bunch of rocks and dust that enough gravity gathered around to, like, pull into a single thing. I was reading an article that the James Webb Telescope had discovered a series of jumbos or Jupiter mass binary objects, which are two planets the size of Jupiter orbiting one another, which challenged a lot of theories on how planets form. Because according to the current theories, that shouldn't exist or should be so incredibly uncommon that we shouldn't see many, if any, of them. And we found, I think, 13, all in the same sort of area. So supposedly our theories on exactly how planetary formations occur have been challenged relatively recently. Oh, remind you of the Las Vegas UFO sightings that happened this year? Look, as interesting as it would be if it were aliens, every time I hear UFO, I'm reminded that U just stands for unidentified. That doesn't mean that it wasn't man-made. It just means we don't know who made it. And by we, I mean whoever's recording it. Presumably the, like, top secret government agencies that are making a lot of the damn things know. They're like, oh shit, somebody saw it. Do we have plausible deniability? Close enough. Alright, that's fine. Okay, I did tell Yvonne, I am not going to be streaming this Monday or Wednesday for sure, as I will be... You're not saying they're aliens? I'm not saying that you're saying they're aliens. I'm just saying, like, when a lot of people think flying saucer when they say UFO, and for me, I'm like, unidentified in what sense? Like, there are a lot of clearly man-made things that aren't rapidly identifiable. Um, Sorry, I was saying, I was telling Yvonne I will not be streaming tomorrow or Wednesday. I may or may not stream Friday. I'm getting back into town on Friday, and it'll depend on what I'm up for. They're floating in the air with no propulsion. Yeah. That is interesting, though I will counter no propulsion with no obvious propulsion. If it's a new design, it could be internal. So maybe stream Friday. If not, I will be back this coming Sunday. And I will be going out with my parents, to a place and recording some video that will probably get uploaded to my Clips channel as soon as I have time to edit it together when I get back. So I'm hoping I get a fun video out of that, but I don't know exactly how long it'll take to edit. It shouldn't take too long, but I am looking forward to putting that together. It'll be different from my usual content, but I think it'll be a good time. Alright, good chatting with you, Nisrat. I am going to go ahead and cut the stream here, because I have to be up at like 3:30 in the morning to get on a flight. So, sleep well. Thank you to both you and Yvonne for coming to the stream. Thank you to anybody who came by and lurked. Thank you to anybody watching this VOD in the future. Have a good day, night, evening, wherever you are. Stay safe, and goodbye.